Welcome to our last lecture. This week we'll cover planning for e-commerce, look at benefits and cost, how to evaluate and finance, outsourcing, and managing and staffing. So, to identify benefits and estimate costs is a critical part of a successful project in general. An electronic commerce business plan activities should start with identifying specific objectives and linking these objectives to business strategies. In setting electronic commerce objectives, consider the strategic role of the project, its intended scope, and the resources available. Typical electronic commerce objectives are increasing sales in existing markets, opening new markets, serving existing customers better, identifying new customers, coordinating more efficiently with existing vendors, and recruiting employees more effectively. The objectives will vary with the size of the organization. And you also have to compare the risks of e-commerce with the risks of inaction, in other words, not doing e-commerce. Downstream strategies improve the value businesses provide to customers. This is one of the business strategies, and the e-commerce site should link their objectives to one of the business strategies. Downstream, improve the value businesses provide to customers. Upstream strategies focus on reducing cost or generating value working with suppliers. Web use for businesses include creating an attractive sales channel for many firms, complementing other business strategies to improve competitive positions, and inspiring businesses to take initiatives. Electronic commerce activities are difficult to measure. The first wave e-commerce activities existed without specific measurable goals. There was plenty of investors for highly speculative activities then, and successes and failures were measured in broad strokes. The second wave of e-commerce activities, businesses took a closer look at benefits and costs. A good implementation plan will set specific objectives as well as benefits achieved and expected costs to be incurred. A third wave e-commerce activities are impacted by the pervasiveness of smartphones and tablet devices, by web access in many more locations, and that's changed the nature of online communication. And technology capabilities are more easily acquired. For example, social media and its tools. So it's important to identify and measure benefits. Some benefits of electronic commerce goals are obvious, tangible, and easy to measure. An example of one of these is increased sales or reduced costs. Other electronic commerce goals are more difficult to measure. An example of this would be increased customer satisfaction. We set measurable objectives even if they are for intangible benefits. So with regard to the intangible customer satisfaction, we might say measure customer satisfaction based on the number of return customers. When making websites to build brands or enhance existing marketing programs, we should set goals in terms of increased brand awareness. And some of the measures we would look at here are opinion polls, and market research surveys. Companies selling goods or services online measure sales volume in units or dollars. It's complicated to measure brand awareness or sales increase because it may be the result of other things the company is doing, or it could be because of the general improvement in the economy. Using websites to improve customer service or after-sale support has possible goals of increased customer satisfaction or reduced support costs. Supply chain managers' goals include supply cost reduction, quality improvements, or faster deliveries of ordered goods. Auction site goals include an increase in the number of auctions, dollar volume of items sold, number of items sold, or the number of registered participants. Virtual communities and web portal goals include the number of visitors, the quality of visitors' experiences. Businesses must convert raw activity measurements to monetary units to compare benefits to costs. Compare net benefit of a particular initiative to the net benefits provided by other projects is one other measure that's going to be done in comparison to decide if the project should go forward. It's difficult to measure value in monetary units precisely. Identifying and estimating costs. Information technology project costs can be as difficult to estimate and control as benefits. Web development uses rapidly changing hardware and software technologies. Hardware costs are trending downward, but increasingly sophisticated software often requires more of the newer hardware. The net result is an overall higher hardware cost as well as higher software cost than anticipated. Rapid changes in web technologies can destroy your project plan. It's important to look at the total cost of ownership and also opportunity cost. TCO includes all costs related to electronic commerce implementation. These include hardware cost, software cost, outsourced design work, employee cost, and site maintenance. A good TCO number will include assumptions about how often the site would need to be redesigned in the future. One of the largest and most significant electronic commerce cost is opportunity cost. This is foregone benefits that the company could have obtained if they had done an electronic commerce initiative. Things like lost customers, lost sales, or lost cost reductions. Let's consider some of the website costs. The total dollar amounts required to create and operate a website have varied over time and varied by business type. The relative proportion of costs has remained somewhat stable. 10% of your costs will be for hardware, 10% for software, and 80% for labor. A small online store can be placed into operation for less than $1,000. A complete small to mid-size online business operation with full transaction and payment processing capabilities has an initial investment of between $10,000 and $1 million. Annual cost of operating an online website are between 50% and 200% of the site's initial cost. Costs are generally heading downward. There's lower costs for broadband access and also for computer hardware and software. Netscape in the early 1990s needed more than $40 million just to get their site started. Dig cost less than $500,000. Today, smartphone app development is less than $1,000. Let's look at funding for online business startups. Early web businesses were started by individuals with knowledge of computers, technology, and businesses. In the late 1990s, online startups were attractive to investors wanting to make fast money. And this was the internet boom. Angel investors funded initial startups in hopes for rapid growth. This is still an option today. The goal is to sell to venture capitalists at a profit. Venture capitalists are wealthy individuals or firms who have a goal of making profit by selling stock to the public through an initial public offering. The system of financing and startup and initial growth of online businesses has both costs and benefits. A benefit is access to large amounts of capital early. A cost include the pressure to grow rapidly and most profits going to the angel investors and venture capitalists. Cost decreases in starting online businesses have reduced the need for venture capitalists and angel investors. The trend is towards more and smaller online ventures. Comparing benefits to costs. Capital projects or capital investments are major investments in equipment, personnel, or other assets. The techniques to evaluate proposed capital projects range from simple calculations to complex computer simulation models. Ultimately, though, it's a comparison of benefits and cost. Key parts of creating a business plan is to identify potential benefits and cost and evaluate whether the benefits exceed the costs. Return on investment techniques, ROI, measure the amount of income or return provided by a specific current expenditure or investment. Some see electronic commerce initiatives as necessary and may not subject them to this type of ROI or cost-benefit analysis. These companies fear being left behind. Newspaper websites are an example of companies willing to incur losses to establish an online presence. Many companies use return on investment as a measurement tool for evaluating projects because it's been used historically. It's easy to understand, but has some built-in biases that can lead to poor decisions. ROI requires all costs and benefits to be stated in monetary units, which gives undue weight to costs. ROI focuses on benefits that can be predicted, but oftentimes initiatives have unforeseen benefits. And also, ROI tends to emphasize short-term benefits over long-term benefits. And here we see measuring the benefits of electronic commerce initiatives, common measurements of various types of benefits for the different types of initiatives. And here are estimated costs for various businesses by size. And important web hosting service features, and again, a set of measures that you can measure how effective the web hosting service is. And finally, how cost-benefit analysis is done, determine the value of benefits and total cost, and compare them. Next, let's look at strategy. First, strategies for developing electronic commerce websites. Websites began as a static brochure. Then the second generation added transaction processing and other capabilities, making websites an important part of the information system of an organization. Gave them enhanced capabilities to personalize and to develop customer relationships. They were redesigned later to work better with mobile devices, and recently sites have become integrated with social media networks. These transformations have required software development. Internal development or outsourcing. There's a question all organizations will face. Some companies use contractors to handle the entire online business site development, also known as outsourcing. Other companies understand that sites are too important to the future to risk complete outsourcing. Business initiatives must be integrated into existing activities to ensure success. Having internal people lead projects ensures specific needs are addressed and the initiative is congruent with organization goals and culture. The key to success is finding the right balance between inside support and outside support for the project. We'll start with the internal team. The first step in deciding what to outsource is to create an internal team that is responsible for the project. Team members need to be knowledgeable about the internet and its technologies, but also be creative thinkers and distinguished within the company. They should have a good sense of company goals and the company's culture. And it should be noted that technical expertise is less important than these other factors, especially knowledge of the company goals and culture. Measuring the achievements of the team is important. They should be expressed in whatever terms are appropriate to the objectives of the initiative. Intellectual capital is the employee's knowledge about the business and its processes. Internal teams decide what to outsource, who are the outsources or partners that will be needed. Partners can be important in the early part of a project because they often have skills and expertise in new technologies and generally before other system professionals. Early outsourcing is one strategy. Here the company outsources the initial site design and development to launch a project quickly. The outsourcing team trains the company's information systems professionals before handing site operation over to them. The company's own information systems people work closely with the outsourcing team. They want to develop ideas as early as possible in the project life. Late outsourcing is another strategy. Here the company's information system professionals perform initial design and development, implement the system, and operate it until it's stable. Maintenance of the electronic commerce system is then outsourced, and that allows the company's professionals to then turn their attention to developing new technologies to provide further competitive advantage. Online business initiatives are more suited to early outsourcing than late outsourcing. Partial outsourcing is another strategy, and it's also called component outsourcing. Here the company identifies specific project portions that can be completely designed, developed, implemented, and operated by another firm. Smaller websites outsource email handling and response functions. You can also look at outsourcing the electronic payment system and web hosting so that you get 24/7 operations. Incubators are a strategy for financing your operation. Incubators offer startup companies physical location with offices, accounting, and legal assistance, computers, and internet connections at a very low monthly cost. They may offer seed money, management advice, and marketing assistance. They receive an ownership interest in the company that is typically between 10% and 50%. When the company grows, it sells its interest to venture capitalists or goes directly to an IPO. An early internet incubator was Idea Lab, and it helped Overture, Tickets.com, and CarsDirect.com. Some companies have created internal incubators. They develop technologies for use in main business operations. Most of these were unsuccessful and shut down. Panasonic started internal incubators to help launch new companies to become strategic partners. The incubator development team became managers of the new company. Strategic partner incubators have yielded better results than the old style method. Accelerators are another option for funding. This is a company that performs a function similar to that of an incubator, but with a different activity structure. They tend to work with entrepreneurs who have already developed their idea into a business. The formal application process begins with a competitive series of proposals and presentations. Accepted proposals receive a monetary investment in exchange for a small equity interest. The real value to the entrepreneur is the mentor network. Finally, let's look at project management and how that becomes part of the overall strategy. Project management is a collection of formal techniques for planning and controlling activities to achieve goals. It was developed by the U.S. military and defense contractors. The project plan includes the cost, schedule, and performance criteria. It helps management make trade-off decisions. Project management software helps project managers oversee projects, oversee the internal team, as well as outside consultants. Some examples of project management software include Oracle Primavera, Microsoft Project, and some open source options, Open Workbench, OpenProj, and Redmine. Project portfolio management is used by the company's top technology manager, the Chief Information Officer. It's a technique to monitor each project like it was an investment in a financial portfolio. It allows trade-offs between cost, schedule, and quality across projects as well as within individual projects. Provides more flexibility in allocating resources to achieve the best set of benefits from all projects in the most timely manner. The CIO assigns a ranking for each project based on its importance to the goals and its level of risk. Post-audit reviews are part of project management. This is a formal review of the project after the site is up and running. It examines project items established in the planning stage and compares them to what actually happened. The objectives, performance specifications, cost estimates, and scheduled delivery dates are checked against actuals. Blame identification was often used in the past. This focused on identifying individuals to blame for cost overruns and missed delivery dates. Those are generally unproductive and uncomfortable approaches to these audits. Today, audits are used to gather lessons learned from successes and failures, create and update standards of best practices, and to provide feedback on strategies that were used, and this provides valuable information for planning future projects. Comprehensive audit report analyzes overall performance and how well the project was administered. It investigates organizational structure and if that organizational structure was appropriate, and also looks at specific project teams and their performance. Again, it should compare the actual results to the objectives. Change management is another part of project management. The information system projects involve change, and of course this can be upsetting to people. The employee concerns include the ability to cope with changes, to continue to do good work, and also job security. These concerns lead to increased stress. Change management is the process of helping employees cope with changes. It includes tactics designed to help employees feel involved with the change, and it helps employees overcome their feelings of powerlessness. And here we see the evolution of website functionality. In the mid-1990s, it was just a static brochure. Transaction processing with dynamic database access was introduced in the mid to late 90s. More enhanced transaction processing, including personalization and customer relation management tools, were implemented. And from 2007 to the present, integration with social media and, of course, smartphones and tablet devices. Okay, that concludes our last lecture, and see you in the forums.